Hey all, this is Dave Krasinski from Heads Up Health, and I'm back with my new best buddy, Chuck Hazard. We've been nerding out on all kinds of stuff lately in our mutual Facebook groups and talking a lot about all kinds of quantified health metrics. And Chuck is with Oura, a company that we've just integrated and that we're super excited about partnering with. And Chuck was on the podcast I think we launched that last week, and we went through a whole deep dive on the Oura Ring. But today, Chuck's going to give us a sneak peek into the next version of the Oura Ring, which is absolutely incredible. So, Chuck, welcome, and thank you for joining us again.
Well, thanks, David. This is always a fun time.
Yeah, well, the last podcast went great, and you've been a huge supporter of Heads Up Health and helping us make sure that we're integrating properly with Oura. We have tons of users with the Ring. We have even more users who have pre-ordered the next one. And we've gotten little tidbits of what's coming through the updates coming from Oura and from what's on the website. But take us through the Gen 2. Let's spend about 5 or 10 minutes, Chuck. Maybe you can actually just start by showing us. You were showing me the comparison before of the form factor,
Right.
which I think is probably a good place to start.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Show us both rings.
Right. So, as people know, it's hard to do this. The original Oura Ring, most people have seen, they're familiar with.
Yeah.
This is the new ring.
Huge difference. Absolutely huge difference.
Yeah. And so, and I know some people have been asking that pre-ordering the ring, one of the tough things is seeing on them, the heritage is flat on the top, and even with it on my finger, it's so subtle, it's hard to really see the top here. But other than that, I mean, the two rings look very similar. This ring is obviously lighter, it's smaller, it's titanium. The infrared sensors are a little bit further apart.
Yep.
Despite the smaller size, as we talked about before, the battery life is at least 1 week, could be greater depending on people's uses.
Yep.
And the other big thing that we touched on before, and I know there's some confusion, but we need to do further testing, but we believe that, again, depends on the individual and your use of the ring, but we should be able to track heart rate up to 14 hours a day. So that's combining it with sleep and daytime usage.
Yep.
And that's huge. On the original ring, it couldn't tolerate any movement without turning on the sensors. So that's a big improvement.
So break that down for us, because I think people using the current product understand that it tracks heart rate variability during the sleep cycle on the.
It's always done it during the day.
Yeah.
But we never showed it in the app.
Got it. So it was collecting that data, but it was not being displayed.
Right, because I mean, like a lot of things, we were just trying to think of how useful is this to people.
Yeah.
And we've heard from a lot of users that about things like meditation, post-exercise. And there are lots of times people might want a spot check.
Yeah.
Certainly not a tool like some people need 24-hour-a-day monitoring because they have issues. It's not going to fit that use case. But.
Cool. So would you need to then essentially configure when it's tracking, like for a workout or something like that, or for a meditation? I know there's a meditation mode. That was one feature that was extremely exciting to me.
Right. That's a use case that we can do easily because you're not moving around a lot.
So how would that one work? I would love, if I could basically say I'm doing a 20-minute meditation session, and I'd like to see the delta in, for example, my heart rate variability. Is that where you're going with it?
We need to flesh out the use case. So I don't know, for instance, will it be a button push on the app?
Yeah.
Will it be something that you just say, I started like an activity?
Sure.
Like a meditation, I started at roughly 10 p.m., went till 11 p.m., something like that. I don't know how they got to build that out yet.
Yeah, but the data is there. It's really just figuring out how the interface and how the feature itself is going to work.
Right, and that's something I should mention is all the things we've mentioned as features won't necessarily be released in April next month.
Yeah.
They'll be trickled out over the course of the months after.
Understandable. Yeah, I mean, as long as you're collecting the data, you can roll the features out whenever you want.
Absolutely. And so the key part is making sure the new app for the new ring functions, to our highest expectations,
Absolutely.
hits all the feature sets that we have promised for the new
Yep.
ring, and at least meets all the use cases we had in the past.
Yep.
But we'll be adding things like, adding notes,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll be able to add activities, that kind of thing. So
Cool. So
yeah,
the form factor is much smaller. You've showed both. I think that's huge. I know, especially for a lot of the ladies, the smaller form factor is going to be an appealing thing, because the first gen of the ring, actually, for some people, myself included, quite frankly, it's a little bit bulky sometimes. So I would wear it at night always. Less so during the day, but also not so much during the day, because I wasn't getting a lot of information. I wasn't actively tracking steps or activity, so it didn't have a lot of value during the day. But
yeah.
if the HRV data and other information's in there, I'm much more inclined to wear it
I
24/7.
give you a couple use cases. One,
Cool.
my wife is one of these people. We have quite a few medical professionals that like the Oura Ring, and
Mhm.
they move a lot during the day, and they want to be able to quantify that because it
Yep.
is important.
Or they don't move during the day, and they want to know that too, especially for sedentary people
Well,
working
yeah,
with clients all day.
but the issue with the healthcare providers, and my wife's a veterinarian, is they're often have to wear latex gloves for
Yep.
surgical procedures, and you can't do that with Gen 1 ring. I mean, it's
Yep.
just fat to get
Hmm.
a glove over.
Yep.
So the new ring works fine, and my
Sweet.
wife verified that. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Awesome. So smaller form factor, 1 week minimum on the battery life, maybe up to 10 days, depending on, I guess, on how you use it. Or
at this point, let's just leave it as up to a week, but
all right,
may vary.
all right, that's cool. And then there'll be more data exposed during the day, which things
Yes.
like heart rate variability, which were not previously exposed during the day.
Right. And if you have the beta, if people have the internal beta, as long as you're still enough for long enough, that shows up in the current beta app
Yep. Yep.
as a restful period under the readiness tab.
Got it.
And I don't know, I don't consciously do that.
Yep.
And sometimes I'm surprised. I'll say, wow, I was pretty chill, for 3 times today because I had those restful periods captured.
And is it giving you HRV during the restful periods?
Always, because the challenge, again, because the first generation ring couldn't really tolerate any movement before it got too much noise.
Yep.
And too much noise, too much movement, you won't get an HRV sample. You have to have high quality data for 5 minutes to get an HRV sample. And during
Of
the day,
stillness, five minutes of still behavior. Yeah.
and
So,
I recommend, if you wanted to do that, you probably had to shoot for 10, make
hmm,
sure you get at least a good sample. With the new generation ring, it can tolerate more movement.
yep,
You might not always get HRV, but if you're reasonably still, long enough, you will.
that's awesome. So if you just did have a relaxing period watching a movie, for instance, or something, you'd get a restful period reported, and you'd ideally have an HRV score during that period.
Right.
That's pretty sweet. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if you have a Gen 1 ring, Chuck,
Yeah.
and you're using the new app, will it be able to expose more data from a Gen 1 ring, or no?
There are some. Well, I can't go into specifics because I don't even know myself
Yep.
exactly. But there are some feature sets that will only be available to the new ring
Yep.
because
Understandable.
the original ring didn't have the capabilities.
Sure. There's hardware improvements, sensor improvements, all kinds of different things like that.
Battery.
Battery life improvements, etc. Okay. Cool. So any other improvements before we jump into the new app that you can tease us about with the new product?
No, nothing we haven't talked about. I mean, the infrared sensors are way more advanced.
Oh,
Uh,
I think when I spoke with your team, Chuck, the API, which we use to pull data into Heads Up, will have expanded endpoints for temperature and a few other sources as well. Temperature change, there may be a couple others. So the API is going to improve as well. So we'll be able to pull more data into Heads Up Health
We're
And
putting, yeah, we're putting more resources into the group that works on the cloud
mhm.
in the back-end system. So yes, there'll be, uh, a lot more functionality coming out of the API above and beyond just the data that's transferred,
Yep,
just how the API behaves in general.
yep,
And then the other thing is on the cloud. At some point in the future, the cloud will be uh, have a new look and feel that matches the app.
mhm.
So it'll be less
Yep, that makes sense.
1980, just grayscale.
Yeah. Well, I know you've done some interesting correlations between
Yeah,
some MyFitnessPal data, which we helped collect, and the Ring. We're extremely interested in doing things like looking at individual HRV measurements, and you and I have talked about this, but glucose measurements, continuous glucose measurements, and helping people understand things like the effects of food on HRV, the effects of stress on blood sugar. This is now all theoretically going to be passively collected, and there's lots of exciting possibilities.
yeah. No, I think I may have mentioned in the past. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but the COCA test,
Yep.
where your heart rate can go up if
Hmm.
you're sensitive to a food,
Yep.
and you know, and as I also mentioned that Paleo FX, I'm going to have a Libra system installed on my.
Yeah, I'm totally jealous on that one, Chuck. That's going to be awesome.
So
Yep.
I hope to, with having the new ring, that I'll do spot checks for both HRV and HR to see when I eat something what's
That's going to
happening.
be awesome to overlay that data. I
Yeah,
think is going to be incredible. That's hopefully something we'll be able to start building and surfacing insights automatically. So you don't even really have to overlay it. We'll
right.
just say, for example, we detected a spike here, and you
Yeah,
could correlate that with timestamps from MyFitnessPal or
right.
whatever the case might be.
Yeah,
That's deep dive nerdy stuff that I hope we can work on someday, but it's exciting for sure.
yes.
So show us the app.
Okay, I'll give you. I mean, we're short on time here, but give you a quick glance. And some of the stuff again um, could change and will likely change.
Yep.
So take this with a grain of salt. Okay.
Wow, nice. Okay, so what are we looking at here? Take us to the beginning. The new
Yeah.
app.
One of the complaints that I mean, I've had myself, my wife's had, lots of our users. You open the app in the morning and it's like Rudolph. You get blinded because
Hmm.
the white background on the new beta app, not the one that the original app was black. That was great. But the first beta app had a lot of white, which
Hmm.
was hard on your eyes in the morning.
Hmm.
So this is a great way to wake up. It's a
Yep.
sunrise.
Yep.
So the new main screen for the app is basically moments. So what
Yep.
happened during the day? So you see, this is from the prior night,
Hmm.
restful period for 25 minutes watching TV,
Yep.
and it shows the average heart rate during that period.
So that's what we talked about earlier, which was a recorded restful period.
Right. So here's
Cool.
the sleep score, and you click on it, and it just gives you the duration,
Yep.
lowest heart rate, shows you when you went to bed, and the different colors. And this will be fleshed out a little bit more
Yep.
over time.
Yep.
Uh, it shows that I've reached my activity goal for the day. My goal
Hmm.
was 350 calories. I did 449.
Hmm.
And my inactive time so far today is 9 hours and 31 minutes. Not very good.
Hmm. I don't think I could say that I'm much better on a typical
Well,
day.
I set it. I mean, I set a timer typically, and I try and get up like every 20 minutes to half an hour
Yep.
in push-ups.
Oh, okay. So there's the rest of the data.
You have the normal things. Start with sleep.
Yep.
Instead of having on multiple screens, it's now on one screen. So information you're used to seeing in the old app. So it's not much different. Um,
Beauty. Yep.
but it's very very similar in that respect.
Yep.
And just real quick, readiness is a big one for people. And you've got your HRV, resting heart rate,
What's
body.
respiratory rate? It's a new
What's
one.
that?
Respiratory rate.
Yeah, that's your breathing.
Yep.
Yeah, and then
12.4 per minute. Okay, that's cool.
So, and we've got, tags we now put like previous day activity, pay attention because I went overboard
Yep.
my exercise.
Mm-hmm.
Nighttime HRV. Again, like I've said in the past, I love to see an a trend up during night on my HRV that shows your nervous system's recovering.
Those are pretty sweet scores, Chuck.
And then resting heart rate.
Beautiful.
And that restful period again. And see, there is no HRV because I wasn't still enough to capture.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So that's where the meditation mode might come in, where if you did a 20-minute meditation session, it would theoretically detect that.
And I don't know if, you might hit the plus sign like.
Yeah, like a manual thing, or it might just detect it.
That might be where they put, meditation and something in here. I just don't know it. I don't think the use cases, the feature set's been built out all the way.
That's cool.
And then you can scroll, back prior days.
Yep.
There's a calendar, and the crowns mean that my readiness was above, I think, 85.
Oh, sweet.
So you can see that in the calendar, and you can step through months.
Yep.
What's the other thing? Oh, then of course, one thing we have in the current beta build that's out there is trends. And, so some of the stuff's in the cloud you can see on the app now.
Yep.
So click on deep sleep, and we'll be showing one thing we'll add, like in the cloud, which is now in the cloud, to show your average for the time period you're looking at.
Yep.
So weekly or yearly kind of thing. So yeah, so you could look at different long-term trendings on the app.
There was also some mention about getting some guidance on what your optimal circadian cycle was. Like, one of the things I've learned from the Ring that I didn't know before was that actually for me, I get the best sleep when I'm in bed at 9 p.m., asleep by like 9:30, and up early. And that's something I learned from just trial and error with this Ring. And so I had read that there'll be some circadian rhythm guidance.
Yeah, so in the current external user build is floating around with some of our users. Under the readiness tab, that has sort of a heat intensity kind of heat.
Got it. Yep.
And it shows based on your scores when you went to bed, gave you the highest scores. And that's not in this current app yet, but that is one aspect of Circadian.
Yeah.
Got to show you.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, with the current app that most people are using, the message engine is pretty static. And so we'll be rolling out a more dynamic messaging system that actually looks at your data, historical data, and correlations that our science department finds that are of interest.
Yep.
And help guide you into to becoming better. And then also one of the things we're looking to do is come up with projects of different lengths that you can sign up for.
Yep.
Using your own data, you can say, hey, I'm going to stop. A project is, I'm going to try and get to bed by 10 p.m. every night, or be consistent. And I do it for 2 weeks, just test. And then we'll show you the results of that. Did it make a difference or not?
That's awesome.
Or it may, don't drink coffee for 2 weeks, something like that. Or take
love it.
Or whatever.
Yep.
Some little projects that you as an individual might want to try, and then we'll help you see if there are any correlations.
That's the key to it all, man, for personalizing all this stuff.
Yes.
All right, well, we won't take much more of your time, Chuck. This was awesome. Super excited to get my hands on the next Ring. When do you think we might see some of the first ones coming off the production line?
So we're still on track for next month.
Yep.
And so we're shipping in the order that the pre-order came in. So the people that, when we announced it slush, they were right on their computers.
They get first dibs, huh?
Yeah.
All right.
A lot of people were doing that. So
cool.
But we hope to get through with the ramp up of the factories and all the production. We hope to get through all the pre-order queue in May.
Awesome.
And then we'll start building up the inventory and
cool.
Be back in the business of when you order your Ring, we'll have it in your hands, 2 to 4 business days anywhere in the world.
Awesome. Well, we're super excited to keep partnering. For anyone who wants to get the Ring, just go to headsuphealth.com/Oura Got it right. I got it right this time. And you can use the Heads Up Health code, save a few bucks on the ring, and learn about how the integration works between our two companies. So always a pleasure, Chuck. Thanks,
Yes.
man.
Okay, sounds good.
Later.
Take care.